Well, thank you for the kind words, Don. I was actually quite surprised, but also very delighted to receive the invitation to come up here. I've been off pursuing my career and working pretty hard at it for almost 30 years. I'm assuming most of you are with junior and senior level students. Pretty safe to say. Well, yeah, I was in your shoes at one point in time, and it was kind of daunting trying to figure out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. What I can tell you is this: what I'm doing now is not what I thought I was going to be doing when I was in your shoes. Life does not quite work in a scripted manner, no matter how much you wish it would. What I will do is I'll talk about how I evolved from an engineering student, like many of you are, into a fairly successful entrepreneur and the CEO of 4 companies. I'll start with talking a little bit about my background, kind of where I came from. I'm a local Detroit area guy. I'll talk about my experiences while I was here at Lawrence Tech. A little bit about what I think entrepreneurship is. Something kind of important, work-life balance, something that I struggle with every day, and some lessons learned, things that I wish I knew when I was in your shoes. Now, some of these things you'll remember, some of the things you won't. I'm willing to bet 5, 10, 15 years from now, some of the things I'm going to say will come back to you and you go, oh, that's what that guy meant. That's what it was all about. Sometimes you got to learn the hard way. Sometimes you can learn by listening. So I'll give you the benefit of what I know in the short, brief period of time, and feel free to ask questions at any time. I don't want to be the only one talking today. I'm fighting a little bit of laryngitis, so I'll do the best I can. Now, my background, I was born in a very small suburb of Detroit. Came from a blue-collar family. Probably many of you did as well. My father was a carpenter. I went to school during the day, and I typically worked odd jobs with him at night, doing renovations on kitchens, bathrooms, homes. Dad always worked 2 jobs, trying to make ends meet. Even back then, things were a little bit tight. I didn't know what I wanted to study in school. I took all the vocational classes that my high school offered. I was actually in an electronics class one time, and we were talking about magnetic fields, electricity, and all that kind of came easy to me. I understood it. But I looked around at my classmates, and 2/3 of them couldn't get it. It was just a foreign concept. If they couldn't see it or touch it, they didn't understand it. So back then I thought, well, you know what, maybe this is a field I ought to go into. It seems to be something I understand and other people don't quite get. So that's kind of how I decided to go into electrical engineering. Wasn't any major revelation. It was just going through one class one day in high school. I was the first person to go to college in my family, so we didn't really know much about how to go about researching universities or looking for financial aid, that kind of stuff. We were all pretty green about it. Looked around, I applied at University of Michigan, Michigan Tech, Lawrence Tech, a few other schools. Got accepted at all the schools. Believe me, the acceptance criteria was a lot easier back then. But I thought I wanted to start going at Lawrence Tech first. And the initial idea was I was going to go there for about 2 years and then transfer up to Michigan Tech because I was a big hockey nut, and Michigan Tech had a great hockey program. Well, I got here in 1978 and started studying electrical engineering. The school was much smaller than it is today. I think we only had maybe 5 buildings, and they weren't as big as the buildings we had here. It was a pretty intimate environment. I got to know my professors fairly well, but more importantly, I got to know my classmates very well. And throughout my tenure, I decided not to transfer out, and I stayed here for the whole 4 years. While I was here, I also joined a fraternity, Sigma Phi Epsilon. I'm not sure if there's any Sig Epsilon. I know there's at least 1 Sig Ep in the group. There you go. 2. Okay. And that was a good experience. It was a great opportunity to meet people, get a little bit of mentoring from the older students about what to expect and which teachers to avoid, which classes to take, which ones not to take. So it ended up being a real comfortable environment for me. The first year I actually commuted back and forth from Detroit back up to Lawrence Tech. They actually didn't have enough housing at the time. So my second year I actually got a house. I got an apartment off campus, and I eventually moved into the university apartments off campus in my 3rd and 4th year. While I was here, I think I thrived quite a bit. I enjoyed the classes. I was one of the founding members of the Eta Kappa Nu Electrical Engineering Honor Society. There were about 8 of us that founded that organization, started it. I think it still exists today. And I work part-time in the athletic department with a fine gentleman named Mr. Moon. Most of you guys don't know him. He was recently inducted into the Orange Tech Sports Hall of Fame, I guess is what they call it. Real great guy. Worked my way through school. I worked in a steel fabrication plant down in Detroit, and as well as working in the athletic department here on campus. Senior year, I studied for and I passed the professional engineer's exam. It was held down at the 8 Mile Road Armory. So I think it's probably still held there today. And then came time for interviewing. And that was a scary time because I didn't really know what to expect. A lot of companies came to campus, and the interview process was going on from December through about March. And I flew all over the nation. Never even been on a plane before. Flew all over the nation for the first time. New York, California, Missouri, Florida, Texas, you name it. And my first job ended up being with Texas Instruments in Dallas, working in the defense group. I'll never forget when I went to interview down there. I left here on